David, I have to tell you, we all knew this was entirely possible. It was not the news anybody wanted to hear.
You're right, Allie. We knew that this possibility was out there. BP stuck its neck out and said we've got a 60 to 70% chance of success with this top kill. Well, looking back on it, that was probably a little over-optimistic. They did pour thousands and thousands, 30,000 barrels of this heavy liquid into the process. They tried the thing called the junk shot 16 times to try and create sort of a footing for this pressure that they were trying to build in there, but to no avail. They weren't able to stop this flow of oil from coming out. So then the next question had to be, when I spoke to Doug Suttles of BP, I said, what next? What kind of assurances can you give us? And here's what he had to say. And all along we've been told that this was the top kill was your first choice because it had your highest chance of success and you carried the fewest risks. What are your chances of success as you move forward now? And what are the risks that you are encountering that you did not have before? Also, how soon do you plan to install the second blowout preventer?
Well, if you go back to the very beginning, of course, our first attempts to stop the flow were with trying to activate or somehow use the existing blowout preventer. That was the place we began more than a month ago. And, of course, in parallel, we've been working numerous options. So I don't think it's accurate to actually say that was ever attached as our most likely or best chance of success. It was the next option, an option we felt was the next one to pursue based on the information we had. And I think the chance of success we gave it was somewhere around 60 to 70%. Obviously, we didn't know. So I think that what we've done is given this thing every chance to succeed. We've gone at this for more than 3 full days, made multiple attempts, and as I said, had probably the best and brightest in the industry and in government working to assess whether we should continue, because that is an option and was an option, or whether we should move on. And based on all of the analysis and consultation with those experts, the view is it's now time to move to the LMRP cap.
I think you should remind them, too. We should remind everyone we've been at this. I think we're into day 40 now. The first few weeks were really spent on trying to intervene on the existing BOP. There was a lot of work done on that with valves and repairs and everything. So I think it was at least 3 weeks that we tried that before you moved on to top kill. So it's been a series of, it's a little bit of a roller coaster ride for everyone as we go through this. And we try to stay, steady state, hand at the till. And, obviously we've said we've had to prepare for a worst case scenario since day one, that this could fail totally and release a tremendous amount more than it is releasing now. And the real solution, the end state, is a relief well. It has never been top kill or BOP. I mean, it's a relief well is what we really need to get to.
Right, I understand that, but the second part of my question is, what are the risks that you're encountering now that you didn't encounter with the top kill, and what are your chances of success now compared to the top kill?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. So I think what we've learned at this step is the next thing to do is to try to capture all of the flow, or as much of the flow as we can. So if you recall, we use this riser insertion tube tool, what we call the RIT tool. Our first attempt was the dome, and of course we had the hydrate problem. So we learned from that we had to exclude the water. But we also knew that this riser insertion tool was only going to capture a portion of the flow. We believe the LMRP cap has a chance to capture a great majority of it. I don't want to say 100%, but a great majority of it with that design. And while we continue to work options to stop the flow, what we need to do right now, and we've said this all along, that if top kill was unsuccessful, the next step in the process was the what we call the LMRP cap. It's another version of what we used to call top hat and other things. We think this is the right step. The government agrees with us. The Secretary Salazar, Secretary Chu agree with this. The best experts agree, and that's what we need to do next while we continue to work other options that might be available to us. But in the meantime, what we've learned is if we can capture flow at the seabed, if we can fight this thing effectively at the surface and use subsea dispersant, that we can actually minimize the amount of oil on the surface and therefore minimize the amount of oil that gets to shore, which I think everyone agrees it has to be the biggest priority.
Can we also assure you that as we do this subsea injection of dispersants, which will be necessary with this, we will continue extensive sampling and protocols and share that information with everybody. And I know the head of the EPA and others, Secretary Dr. Lumchenko of NOAA, folks are collaborating constantly on the results they're getting, and there's a daily call reviewing those results that will continue, because this is going to require subsea injection of dispersants depending in amounts that are determinate based on how successful you are with the cap.
And we got a comment from CEO of BP, Tony Hayward. He said that he was disappointed that the operation didn't work. He said the team executed the maneuver exactly the way they were supposed to, and said that everything worked the way it was supposed to. But there's no explanation for why it didn't work. They only know now that they're going to have to move on. And if you listen very clearly to everything that BP was saying, that they are moving on with a joint decision made between them and the experts in the government as well. So they're making it very clear that everyone has in a consensus here that it's time to move on.
That's a very important point. I just want to underscore that a little bit. This is a joint command. This is not just BP making the decisions. Is that correct?
That's right. And another important point that sort of came out today, Admiral Landry stepped up to the microphone and talked about managing expectations, that perhaps suggesting perhaps that there was too much expectation for any of these processes, because they keep talking about how they've never done this before at this depth. This is a very difficult thing that they're trying to do. And she brought up specifically the idea of managing expectations, of making sure that timetables are more realistic when they start talking about how long certain maneuvers are going to take, and perhaps not raising expectations, if you want to read between the lines there, of any sort of success or any sort of unrealistic expectations here.